What's going on, guys? It's DG here, and today I'm going to do another video, and it's going to be a little bit different than what I've been doing. I actually put up a post on Instagram the other day kind of asking my audience what kind of content would you like to see on my YouTube channel. So I'm going to go ahead and go over one of the topics that someone mentioned on that story. Rafa Rios asked, how did you build your business? So this is kind of deep. If I'm going to answer this question, I'm going to have to go all the way back. So let's get rid of that. Take another sip of coffee. And let's get to it. So about 5 years ago, I had moved to Atlanta, Georgia from Kentucky. I only knew 2 people, and that was the 2 people that I lived with. And I really had no idea how I was gonna build my business. But all I did know was that I wanted to focus on freelance. At the time, I was a graphic designer. I had a BFA in graphic design, and I was gonna do photography on the side as well. So at the time of moving, I prepaid for 2 months of rent, and I probably only had about $500 to my name. So I knew that I had to get to work as soon as I got to town. One thing that I started out doing was going to a lot of open mics. One of the people that I lived with, she was an artist, so we would always go to open mics. She would perform. I would take photos of her and also take photos of other artists that were performing. Wasn't making much money then. I was probably making like $50 a night, and I would be there literally all night, get home at like 4 a.m. in the morning. But I definitely remember doing a lot of that. Whenever I was in the clubs, most of the time I would always ask people if they wanted to buy their photos. And I realized that most people didn't want to buy photos. They would always ask me if I took video or had any footage of them performing. So I quickly realized that I was going to probably have to do a transition if I wanted to actually be able to make something of myself. So with my background in graphic design, I had a lot of experience with the Adobe products, and transitioning from like Photoshop and Illustrator over to Premiere wasn't too bad for me. I had one class in school that I dabbled a little bit in After Effects and did some Premiere work, so it wasn't nothing new to me, but it was a little bit different for me to switch over into the video world. I didn't really know much about like video settings and that kind of stuff whenever I was first transitioning. I knew a little bit, but really not enough to get by, so I had to hit YouTube pretty hard and make sure I taught myself all those types of things. From there, I started going to more open mics, but this time I would always flip the switch over to video to make sure I always got footage of the artists as well, and that was a little bit more successful for me. But still, at this point, I was making terrible money, honestly. I was making like maybe $50. I would go out maybe 2 or 3 times a week. So you do the math, it was on like $100, maybe $150 a week. But at that time, my mindset was really stuck on, if I'm making enough money to pay my rent, then I'm gonna be able to stay here another month. With that being said, I started doing more of the videos that way, but then I started transitioning into music videos. Music videos for me was a little bit better. I remember my very first music video, I did 2 for $300. So that was $150 for each music video. Obviously, that's not very good. But for me at the time, like I said, I was doing these 2 and 3 nights at the club, only making about $150. And I was stoked whenever I was like, $150 for one music video, let's do it. So I basically started doing that. Over time, I started pushing the prices up a little bit. I started doing like 2 for $500. So I was making about $250 per music video. And the music videos I was doing was really run and gun style stuff. So I wasn't having to spend anything out of pocket. I was just able to pocket all that money and just basically pull up to a scene, shoot some good shots, chop it up, send it to the artist, and I was done. So that had worked for me for a little while, but then I started noticing people were charging way more money for music videos. So I started studying, looking into how am I gonna be able to push the budgets up. I started getting to more like $750 to $1,000 range for music videos. Obviously, I thought that was great as well, but I was still doing some of the club shoots just to make sure I could make a little bit more side money, just to make sure I could save a little bit on top of being able to pay for my rent. So something that happened to me when I was at the clubs, I actually ran into a guy that said he owned a label. He wanted to hire on a full-time cameraman to be able to follow his artists and get a lot of vlog type footage. So that was actually my first time ever locking in some bigger money. I became more exclusive working with that label and his artist. So I started shooting more shows with that artist, do behind the scenes of his music videos. I would take photos as well, studio sessions, all that kind of stuff. I basically became the content creator for this label at the time. But one night we were all going to the club. You know how artists in Atlanta have to show out, pop bottles, make the scene whenever they come out. So I was gonna be capturing all that, but randomly one girl stopped me and she asked, have you ever shot a wedding? And at the time I honestly had no wedding experience, so I was like, I haven't, but I'm not opposed to it. And she said, well, my friend actually owns a wedding company and she's always looking for good videographers. I can see how you're working and I think you might be a good fit for her team. Can I get your contact info? So from there, I gave her my information, and a few weeks later, maybe even a week went by, and I got a random message from a girl who owned the company. She had talked to me a little bit about needing a videographer. She liked the way that I was shooting. She saw one of my club recaps and said, you know, I can see that you have a vision for this. Would you be interested in helping me shoot a wedding? So at the time, I was kind of having a fallout with the label. They were making a lot of false promises. They weren't paying me on time, and pretty much I was gonna have to go home if I didn't figure out what was gonna be my next move. So whenever she asked me about the weddings, I quickly said, yes, I'll do it. Tell me where and when and I'll be there. So I'm not sure how long it was before I actually shot the first wedding, but I hopped in the car with 3 strangers. It was the lead photographer, the lead cinematographer, the second photographer, and I was gonna be the second videographer. My main role was gonna be more of the creative style shooter. I had a glide cam at the time, so I would get all the B-roll, the slow-mo shots and that kind of stuff, and really focus on just putting the pieces together that the lead cinematographer can't get whenever he's just sitting on a tripod. So again, this was my very first time ever shooting a wedding, and not only any wedding, this was an Indian wedding, so it was gonna be 3 days long, maybe even 4. I can't remember if this one was 4 days, but it was crazy. It was kind of a culture shock for me. I didn't know what was going on. The lead photographer would always just kind of point me in the right direction to go, and I was just kind of getting wides and tight shots and different stuff like that. They were burning things. I saw fire, and they had these sticks making noise. But it was cool. It was a good experience. It was definitely something different for me, and it got me out of doing the $50 club nights. It was way better money, and I didn't have to rely on the label to pay me anymore. So I was in a good position, and the owner of the company really liked my shot styles, and she really wanted to bring me into more of a full-time position with her company. So let's fast forward about 4 years. I've shot over 100 weddings now. Pakistani weddings, Indian weddings, those were our main niche. We actually shoot all over the nation. I wrote a list here. We've shot in New York, New Jersey, Florida, Alabama, Ohio, Kentucky, California, Georgia, Tennessee, and also Texas. That's one way that I've been able to travel over the past few years. I've made way more money shooting weddings than I ever did with music or the music industry in general. This year, I'm slowing down a little bit on the weddings. I'm getting into more commercial work, and I really just want to focus on getting into films, short films, and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to take everything to the next level. I've upgraded my equipment throughout those years. If you haven't seen my other videos, I talk a lot about used gear and why I buy used gear, how I do that. I've saved money by doing so, and I've also been able to just meet a lot of people along the way. One thing that I was always told was your network is your net worth, and that cannot be more true. So pretty much everybody that I met through the club, it all made this spiderweb effect to where I am now. So there's always a connection back to someone that I had met along the way. One of my biggest suggestions is just network with other business owners, try to help them on their shoots, they can help you on yours, and you'll never know where that might take you in the future. Another thing that I would suggest is just make sure you're always talking to people. Tell everybody what you do, because if they don't know if you're a filmmaker or a photographer, then they're never gonna wanna hire you for your services. So that's one big takeaway. I just want you guys to understand that network is everything. Make sure you're talking to people, make sure you go out and shake hands, all that kind of stuff. That is essentially how you're gonna move up in the industry and make more money over time. Like I said, I recently just started doing commercial work, and I really had no commercial portfolio, but I just started talking to people, telling them, look, I see you have a business here, you're trying to do social media. Have you ever thought about doing commercial work or any content for your social media pages? 9 times out of 10, people are gonna say, yes, I've been looking for this. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to contact. And they're really not gonna be worried about your work. And as long as you're professional and you take everything seriously, they're gonna wanna hire you. Once they see the work, they're gonna hire you again. And that's really how you're gonna build your portfolio over time. So don't be scared to talk to people. Also, don't be scared to jump into new industries, because you can do a lot with cameras. You don't have to be stuck in music videos. You don't have to be stuck in weddings. You can literally do whatever you want, whatever you put your mind to. I'm a firm believer in that. So that's pretty much how I got into the business, how I've built my business over time. I kind of piggybacked off of a business that was already built. That's one good thing about, networking. If you find someone that you can trust, you can always partner up and make the business bigger than it already was. So that's kind of my story on how I have built my business. I actually partnered up with someone that already had a business, and from there we kind of took it to the next level. We started charging more. With so many years of experience in the wedding industry, we kind of learned how the system works. works, and we've figured out this is pretty much the same thing every time. We can train other people to do the same thing, and now we're actually taking the business to the next level by outsourcing and doing those kinds of things. So after we get all the outsourcing taken care of and kind of get the business working for itself, we're going to focus more on our production side. We started a production company now, and that's where we can hire out full crews and work on bigger commercials, bigger music videos, and pretty much scale everything up to be able to work more professionally and work on bigger projects over time. So that is a little background about my story and how I got to where I am now. Thank you, Rafe Reels, for asking that on Instagram. If you guys don't already, go ahead and follow me there at Real Dean Gibson. If you found anything helpful in this video, give me a thumbs up. Comment below if you have any more questions, or if you want to share your story on how you built your business. I would love to read those. Subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more content coming soon.